Within the community of the P&I clubs, there is a great and ever-growing need for education in the areas of loss prevention. Most P&I clubs focus attention on loss prevention as an important area, and the advantages to members and the club itself are now self-evident. In many areas, the member holds the key to loss prevention in his own hands. Good maintenance and crew development contribute not only to safe and efficient ship operation, but also to a significant reduction in the incidence of avoidable claims. The following lessons are intended to add to the existing communication with members on matters such as claims prevention. However, the lessons are not a general text on all aspects of loss prevention, and the master is advised to contact the club's local correspondent whenever in doubt on P&I related matters. The learning objective of this lesson is to introduce the vessel staff to the basic elements of claims prevention. The terms and conditions of the insurance cover provided by a P&I club are defined in the club's statutes and rules, published annually. In addition, most P&I clubs publish a magazine containing regular features and information on P&I matters. Further details may be found in the various handbooks and manuals published by the P&I clubs. Whenever accidents or incidents occur which may involve the association's liability, the master should immediately inform the owners and obtain instructions. A detailed written report on the incident should always be submitted to the owners as soon as possible. The master should also inform the association's nearest correspondent. When reporting an accident or requesting assistance, it is important that the master provide precise information about the incident and the type of assistance required. In the event of any such accident or incident, the master should assume that claims will be made in due course. It is therefore necessary to secure the best possible evidence concerning the nature, cause, and extent of any loss or damage. Arrange for a survey through the association's local correspondent. Retain all relevant documentation. Retain parts of damaged equipment. Retain cargo samples where appropriate. Record the names and addresses of any eyewitnesses. Issue sea protests and letters of protest where necessary. Use video or photographs to record the incident. The master should ensure at all times that the ship is kept in a fully seaworthy condition for the safety of the crew, passengers, stevedores and other persons, as well as the safe carriage of cargo. The master should be able to prove that he has, prior to the commencement of any voyage, exercised sufficient care in inspecting the ship in order to confirm her seaworthiness and cargo worthiness. The ship and her equipment should be regularly and carefully inspected, and corrective action taken immediately should a defect be discovered. The master must ensure that the cargo is loaded and stowed carefully, ensuring the safety, trim, and stability of the ship. The cargo must be stowed in such a manner that it can be carried without being damaged, and without causing damage to other cargo or the vessel's structure. The master must not only ensure that the cargo is properly carried and cared for during the voyage, but should also try to document the steps taken to care for the goods. Log entries must be made as carefully as possible and should contain all relevant details. Weather forecasts should be checked daily or more frequently if conditions demand, and the voyage should be planned accordingly. Whenever a ship encounters heavy weather during the voyage, and the master considers it necessary to reduce speed and/or to make course corrections, these details should be entered in the log. If the master is aware of or suspects that the cargo has suffered any damage on the voyage, he should notify the owners and the association's local correspondent as soon as possible, so that a survey can be arranged if necessary. Cleanup and other costs are covered under the P&I insurance. Whenever pollution of any kind occurs, immediately evaluate the situation and determine how best to limit the pollution and contain the spill. The vessel staff should refer to the sequence number in Vessel Response Plan or the sequence number in SOPEP for details. The issue and use of bills of lading often gives rise to difficult questions of law and practice. In any case of doubt or uncertainty, the master should always consult with and take instructions from the owners. Please familiarize yourself with the issue. When a shipper provides cargo for carriage on a ship, or delivers cargo into the custody and care of a carrier, the shipper is entitled to receive a bill of lading, unless there is an agreement to the contrary. The shipper may receive a received for shipment bill of lading or a shipped on board bill of lading, depending upon the situation. In addition to being a receipt for the goods, the bill of lading has three important functions. It contains evidence of the terms of the carriage. It contains evidence of the apparent order and condition of the goods, and the quantity or weight of the goods at the time of shipment. It is a document evidencing ownership of the goods. The description of the cargo contained in the bill of lading is treated as evidence of the condition and quantity or weight of the goods at the time that they were received, loaded, or shipped by the carrier. Accordingly, it is essential to ensure that this description is correct, for the bill of lading becomes conclusive evidence once it has been endorsed or transferred to a third party. In practice, shippers may be reluctant to accept bills of lading which do not describe the cargo as being clean on board, in apparent good order and condition. Certain shippers may even offer masters a letter of indemnity in exchange for the issue of clean bills of lading. However, as a matter of law, the issue of a clean bill of lading for damaged goods constitutes a fraud. In such circumstances, any letter of indemnity is legally unenforceable and effectively of no value. Accordingly, the master should insist that the bills of lading are properly claused with remarks reflecting the true condition of the cargo. If it is not possible for the master to sign the bills of lading at the loading port without delaying the ship, authority may be given to an agent, nominated by the owners for this purpose, to issue the bills on behalf of the master. If such authority is given to an agent, the master must immediately advise the owners of the agent's terms of authority. The agent should only be allowed to sign bills of lading on behalf of the master if the master is aware of and has agreed to all bill of lading details, including the loaded quantity or weight. A bill of lading is traditionally issued in a set of 3 originals. When one original bill of lading has been concluded, in most cases the remaining originals become null and void. Accordingly, the master is bound to deliver the cargo to the holder of the first original bill of lading, duly presented at the port of discharge, unless the master is aware or has a reasonable suspicion that the ownership of the cargo is in dispute. The master should never release cargo to the consignee, receiver of cargo, without production of the bill of lading, unless he has received the owner's explicit permission to do so prior to the commencement of discharge. Liability arising out of the delivery of cargo without production of the bill of lading is not covered by the association. It is therefore important for the master to comply with the owner's strict instructions. Where owners wish to deliver cargo without the production of the bill of lading, it is recommended that they obtain a letter of indemnity countersigned by a first-class bank prior to delivering the cargo. If the letter of indemnity is to be subject to a limit of liability, It is recommended that this limit should be no less than 200% of the CIF value of the cargo. Are under an obligation to maintain a safe working environment on board the vessel at all times. If crew members, passengers, or shore personnel are injured on board the vessel or in the vicinity of the vessel as a result of the failure to maintain a safe working environment, the owner will be held liable. In certain jurisdictions like the United States, awards for personal injuries are extremely high, and in order to minimize owners' exposure to personal injury claims, the master must be constantly vigilant against defects in the vessel which may affect the safety of the working environment. Please press the buttons to learn more about illness or injury while on the high seas and recording of incidents. In the event of an illness or injury to any person on board while on the high seas, the following important issues must be considered. The best possible medical care must be provided until the person can be taken ashore and hospitalized if necessary. If the person's life is in danger, the master should consider diverting the ship to the nearest suitable port to obtain proper medical treatment. The master should seek medical advice over the ship's radio and keep a careful note of the radio messages in the radio log. If the injury was caused by a failure of part of the ship's equipment, the master must ensure that the damaged part is retained for future inspection or call in a P&I surveyor to investigate the incident and to inspect the damaged part. Claims for personal injury to a stevedore, passenger, or other person on board who is not a member of the crew may be submitted months or even years after an incident. Therefore, the master should ensure that in the event of an incident on board, the incident is properly recorded. He must also identify the injured party, discover the reason why the person was on board, and make a note of whether or not the circumstances of the accident were unusual, given the purpose for which the injured party was on board. Complete a standard accident form. Record details of the treatment administered on board the vessel. Retain any piece of equipment which may have caused the accident. Stowaways are an ever-present problem in certain areas of the world. Please click on the buttons to learn more about the guidance to be followed when dealing with stowaways. Procedures to prevent stowaways coming on board. A close watch should be maintained at all times whilst the ship is in port. Shore personnel should only be permitted to work in restricted areas. All doors should be kept locked. Open spaces should be closed as far as practicable. A thorough search of the ship should be carried out before departure, if possible with the use of dogs. Once stowaways have been discovered on board, the following steps should be taken. Immediately inform the owners, who will inform the P&I Club. Telex or fax the P&I Club as soon as possible. Name of stowaway, stowaway's date and place of birth, date and place of birth of either of the stowaway's parents, postal and residential address of both stowaway and either parent, stowaway's passport or seaman's book number, together with date and place of issue. While on board, stowaways should be guarded as closely as possible to prevent them from escaping ship, as owners may be liable to pay heavy fines if they succeed. Contact with the crew kept to a minimum. Be provided with enough food to remain healthy and a suitable place to sleep. 2 days after departure. When ships are in areas where refugee boats are likely to appear, officers and crew members should be cautioned to be vigilant and alert at all times, as refugee boats are usually small and difficult to see until very close. Treatment of refugees while on board. Many refugees may have been at sea for weeks and may be suffering from exposure, hunger, dehydration and extreme fatigue. During their first days aboard, they should be given liquids and food in small portions, but very frequently, say every 2 hours. For any special medical problems, advice should be sought by ship's radio through the vessel's agent. In most cases, the resettlement of refugees rescued at sea is arranged through the offices of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. Whenever a collision occurs, all actions should be focused on saving life and securing the vessel and her cargo. Many forms of hull and machinery insurance, such as Standard English, ITCH, Scandinavian, German, American, Japanese and French hull policies, provide liability cover for property damage arising out of a collision with another vessel. However, the extent of the hull cover for collision liability varies considerably, according to the conditions of the particular hull and machinery insurance. In general, where such liability is not covered by the hull and machinery, it is covered by the P&I Club. Standard hull and machinery insurance does not cover liability for death and personal injury, or liability for oil pollution. Such claims are handled by the P&I Club. Please press the button to get more information about details the master should make an immediate note of. The extent of the damage sustained by each ship. The other vessel's name and nationality. The prevailing weather conditions at the time of the collision, including visibility. The exact time of the collision and any discrepancy between the time noted by the bridge and the engine room. The position, course, speed and propeller revolutions of one's own ship at the moment of collision. Any alterations to course and speed immediately before the collision, including the exact time of such alterations. Any signals given by one's own ship, and any signals given by the other vessel, including any VHF communication between the two ships. The bearings of and distances between the ships prior to the collision. The helm and engine maneuvers before and after the collision, and the times of such maneuvers. Saving life. Some forms of hull and machinery insurance provide cover for liability for damage to fixed or floating objects such as berths, piers or buoys. In general, where such liability is not covered by the ship's hull and machinery insurance, it is covered by the P&I Club. Whenever the ship causes damage to a fixed or floating object, where such liability is not covered by the ship's hull and machinery insurance, the owners and the association's local correspondent should be notified as soon as possible, so that a survey can be arranged without delay. At 0730 hours, well done, you have now completed the P&I insurance lesson. Let's summarize the main topics of this lesson. The master should ensure at all times that the ship is kept in a fully seaworthy condition for the safety of the crew, passengers, stevedores and other persons, as well as the safe carriage of cargo. In the event of an accident or incident, the master should carefully evaluate the situation and consider appropriate precautionary steps, such as collect and secure all facts and evidence, call in P&I representative, report to managers, owners, take photos, video, retain parts of damaged equipment, retain cargo samples where appropriate, allow only P&I representative lawyer on board, issue sea protests and letters of protest where appropriate, keep logbook detailed and updated, insist on feedback from managers, owners and P&I Club. Please note that this lesson is not a general text on all aspects of loss prevention in relation to P&I matters, and the master is advised to contact the club's local correspondent whenever in doubt.